This video was sponsored by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Before we begin, I'd just like to announce something really exciting, which is next month I'll be conducting a live event with Anthony Jones and Steven Zapata called Robot Pencil to Go. It's going to be an all-day workshop where we demonstrate some art and you guys get to meet artists just like yourself. The event's going to be on December 14th in New York City. You can purchase tickets for the event using the link down below, or if you'd like to stay tuned for future events, you can sign up for our mailing list. Our long-term plan is to create a self-sustaining, crowdsourced event that we can conduct in various cities. So if you can't make it to this New York event, don't worry, we'll be doing more of these. So today's video comes to you after scrapping about 5 educational videos. So after having a lot of trouble figuring out what I was going to do, I decided to have some fun and draw characters from my favorite game, Bloodborne. If you've never played Bloodborne, stop this video right now, get yourself a PlayStation 4 and play that game because it's absolutely amazing. It's this Lovecraftian horror fest that's brought to you by the same creators as Dark Souls. This beast I'm sketching here is actually a former person that lives in the remnants of the old city which they've abandoned and burned to the ground. People from all around flocked to Yharnam to cure their ailments at the healing church, who used a process known as blood ministration. Yharnam was well known for curing all sicknesses with this mysterious blood. It's even said that in Yharnam they produced more blood than alcohol, because the former is more intoxicating. But unbeknownst to the receivers of this blood, its donor was one of many godlike beings known as Great Ones. In particular, the Great One Ebretius, who's a slug-like being that was held captive by the healing church. As you might expect from a process so foul, there were some unexpected consequences. At first, when the blood started turning patients into beasts, the healing church tried to take care of it in secret. Adorning all black, the healing church hunters went out through Yharnam in the middle of the night to dispose of victims, and even potential victims, before signs of sickness even manifested. Eventually, the scourge spread so far that it could no longer be kept in secret. Eventually, a more organized group of hunters was established to take care of the beastly scourge. And this is where you as the player come in. Although you're a foreigner to Yharnam, you're brought into the dreamlike refuge of the hunters to become one of them yourself. As you progress through the game, dream becomes indistinguishable from reality, and good indistinguishable from evil. The more insight you gain about the true nature of this world you inhabit, the more horrors you see, plunging you deeper and deeper into madness. There's so much richness to this story that even years after first playing it, I constantly discover new things about it. In my opinion, it's truly one of the greatest masterpieces of our time, fusing art, animation, music, story, and user experience all into one terrifyingly beautiful package. In fact, if it wasn't for this game, I'm not even sure I'd be here today. It's part of the reason why I ended up leaving school in the first place to pursue art. There are a bunch of channels here on YouTube that discuss the story and lore of this game, so I highly suggest having a look at those if you have some time. I haven't spoken about this drawing at all, so let's talk a little bit about the technical aspects of what I've done here. If you noticed early on, I started very loose, just gesturing in shapes. This has sort of been my replacement for blocking in forms for my characters. The reason being is it's obviously much looser, and it also allows me to work from an outside-in approach, that being from the silhouette towards the inside of the body. The benefit of this, rather than working constructively inside out, is that I can pay a lot more attention to the outer shapes. In order for me to find the perspective, what I can do is use repeated elements of bilateral symmetry like the feet, the hands, and shoulders. Those are all our instinctive, natural cues about perspective anyway, since in real life there's no guidelines coming around everywhere. There's a lot of rendering that's going on with this character, maybe even a bit too much. I'm trying to show that the fur that he has is very shiny, which is why I leave those bright areas of highlight, but it has a very dark local value. That's why where the fur starts to turn away, I give it a deep, rich value. I often get asked about the cast shadows that I do that are very dark and pure black, and how I figure out where those should go. Part of that comes from an understanding of casting shadows on simple primitive forms, which you can look at Scott Robertson's How to Render to get a pretty good understanding of that. But in an intuitive sense, I try to use it anywhere where I think two forms need to be separated from one another. I think in the last sketch I probably could have used fewer of those small cast shadow shapes. A lot of times it's just a bit of trial and error to figure out how much of each you should use. I also try to imagine what the summation of their abstract shapes would look like in absence of the rest of it. So if those cast shadows were all put together as one image, would they be interesting alone? This next sketch is of one of the more significant bosses in the game, Father Gascoigne. Father Gascoigne was an experienced hunter who succumbed to the blood drunkenness of the hunt and descended into a frenzied killing spree. Gascoigne was a priest in a foreign land where he earned the title of father, but at some point he traveled to Yarnum and became a member of the Healing Church as a hunter. Eventually, Father Gascoigne took on a wife named Viola, and the pair had children. As Gascoigne continued to hunt, he began to become more and more affected by the bloodlust, even forgetting his family. During his final hunt, Gascoigne finally succumbed to the bloodlust, becoming little more than the beasts he had hunted. Viola left their home to search for her husband, but when she found him, he no longer remembered who she was, and Gascoigne took her life. We find him sometime after this, still hacking away at bodies. Once again, you can see that I'm blocking in the sketch rather loosely. In some of my other videos, particularly the drawing figures in perspective video, I talk about the form breakdowns that I use to understand how the figure fits in space. But as I've gotten more comfortable with perspective, I found it a better strategy to not necessarily block the figure in on the canvas, but use that as a mental roadmap to figure out where I'm going to place all the features. My loose gesture creates perspective in so much that the placement of the feet, arms, and other context clues build that perspective organically. When drawing in these cloth elements, I try to make them a lot more dynamic by adding in S-shaped curves. A lot of times I'll notice my students fearful of using dynamic curves and shapes, but that's what's going to make this sketch more interesting. As far as lighting is concerned, I try to keep it as simple as possible. Even though I'm using a lot of hatching marks, there's only one light source, and it's coming from top left. That means all of my shadows are going to be towards the bottom right, and I try to just take advantage of that. I make some soft edges by using hatching and then smudging it and then hatching back into it. It's pretty similar to what I would do on a traditional pencil sketch, and I think for me the hardest part is knowing when I'm overdoing it, maybe just doing a little bit too much. The leg in the back, I try to just hatch that as one solid value because I don't really want to draw your attention there. Anyway guys, that's just about it for this sketch. Thank you so much for watching. I'm considering doing more videos like this because it's a lot of fun just to do some demonstrations, and I get to talk about the lore of awesome video games like Bloodborne. So let me know what you think of that idea. Before I go, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. If you're looking to build an online portfolio, consider using Squarespace. They have beautifully designed templates that have been crafted by Squarespace's world-class design team. Adding images into your website is as simple as dragging and dropping them into your browser window, and any images hosted on Squarespace can be edited in your browser using Squarespace's built-in image editor. Crop, resize, rotate, adjust brightness and contrast, and much more. Squarespace also makes it incredibly easy to bring in content from Twitter, Foursquare, Instagram, or Flickr directly into your page. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/moderndayjames to save 10% off on your first purchase, and be sure to use the coupon code ModernDayJames. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please click like and subscribe with notifications on. If you want to get more content like this, but in longer form, you can head to my Gumroad at gumroad.com/moderndayjames. And if you'd like to support what we do here on the channel, consider heading over to patreon.com/moderndayjames. Take care, everyone.